You need to be more strategic. You've heard that one before. Maybe in a review, maybe from your boss out in the hallway, maybe it landed in your inbox right before the weekend so it could sit there and ruin your Saturday. Here's the frustrating part is that nobody told you what that actually means. Nobody showed you what strategic looks like when you're doing it. And no one pointed out where you stand right now. So let's fix that today. In the next few minutes, you're going to know exactly whether you're being seen as a leader yet or whether you're still being seen as a best doer in the room. And I promise you, those are two very different things. I'm Jill Avey, a career success coach, and this is SisterSmart Leadership, the show that explores how women can rise from director to vice president and beyond by fully leaning into their feminine energy as their biggest advantage. Let's get you one step closer to the recognition and promotion you deserve. So no big framework to memorize today, no homework you'll feel bad about skipping, just a quick gut check. So I'm going to read to you a short list of signs. And you notice how many of them sound like you. And I want you to be honest because nobody's watching you here. It's just me and you. So then I'll show you what the one shift is that changes how people see you. And I'll give you 3 things that you can start doing this week to make that happen. So let's bring it back to the basics and get into it. Here's why this matters so much. Strategic perspective is the single biggest skill that separates senior leaders from middle managers. It's not a nice to have, it's the thing. And when researchers studied this, they found that strategic perspective separated the top senior leaders by 80 to 90% from the mediocre and the bottom. So this is huge. So once you reach the executive level, this is the one skill that predicts who gets stuck, who succeeds, and who quietly washes out. Now, here is a part that stopped me cold when I put these 2 studies together. In another study of 1,000 leadership reviews, women scored better than men on 17 out of 19 leadership measures. 17 out of 19. We are great leaders, and the data says so. So which 2 did the women rank lowest for? Technical expertise and tied with that, strategic perspective. Tied at dead last. So think about that. Women are rated as better leaders on almost everything and dead last on the one skill that gets you to the top. So here's what I believe after coaching hundreds of women leaders. I do not think that you're not being strategic. I think that you're not being seen as strategic. And those are very different problems with very different fixes. So there's a real reason that this stays so hard to crack is because most of us never get the chance to practice this skill. You get caught in the day-to-day, the fires, the doing, the checking off your list, and there's always one more thing on the list. And so that strategic muscle never gets that workout. So on top of that, very few companies are actually good at strategy and even fewer teach it. So there are hardly any mentors or models to learn from on the job. And so you're basically expected to already know how to do a thing that no one ever showed you. So that's not a you problem. This is a system problem. And once that you can see it clearly, you can really start to work on it. So let me show you what I mean. How do you know if you're being seen as a doer or a leader? So let's do a symptom check here. There are signs that you're being seen as a doer and not that leader yet that you want to be seen as. So I want you to count how many of them land. No judgment here. This is just data. So first, you find out about big decisions after they're already made. You're sitting right there in a meeting, but nobody turns to you and asks, what do you think we should do? Third, your reviews glow about what you've delivered, and then they get fuzzy and vague the second the conversation turns to whether you're ready for the next level. Fourth, you walk out of meetings with a longer to-do list. People seen as strategic walk out with more influence. Fifth, when you talk, you give the whole report. And so when strategic leaders talk, they give the headline. Your name comes up for the hard project, not the high profile one. And here's the big one. You're the person that everything runs through. You're the glue. And somehow that has become the very reason that you cannot move up. They can't promote you because who would do all these things that you do? It's funny how that works. The very thing you're proud of is the thing pinning you in place. So how many of these symptoms sounded familiar? If it was any of them, stay with me because this is fixable and it's probably not what you think. So picture this spectrum in your mind. On one end is the doer, and then on the other end is the leader. So the doer's measured by what gets done, and the leader's measured by what they set in motion through other people. So most of us got to where we're at by being the absolute best doer in the room. And we were the ones that people counted on because we delivered. And this used to be our superpower. But here's the hard truth. That same superpower is now the thing keeping you stuck, because the skills that got you promoted to here are not the skills that will get you promoted from here. And so I'm not telling you to stop doing. The details still matter. A director and a VP both have to be able to drop into the weeds from time to time. And so most VPs are contributing in some form as well. So this skill is knowing which hat you have on and choosing it on purpose. So I call this helicoptering. So you go up to see the whole landscape, and then you come down to where the work happens, and then you lift back up again. The leaders who get stuck are the ones who never leave the ground. They're busy in the weeds and they never go up for that view. And so what I want you to do is ask yourself a real question. Now, where you actually, not like where you want to be, where are you actually sitting on that line this week from doer to leader? Be honest, because when we get real with ourselves, that was when the growth starts. So here's an insight I really want you to hear today. A strategy doesn't live in your head. It lives in your behavior. And so think about this. Nobody can see inside your mind. You could be the most strategic thinker in the company that they've ever had. And you could go for a walk and map out the next 3 years in your business in your head, but nobody sees it in your head. It doesn't count towards how you're perceived. People rate on what they can see, and that's all they have to go. So when someone tells you you're not strategic enough, what they usually mean is this: I do not see you doing the things that a strategic leader does. That's a completely different sentence. The first one feels like a verdict on who you are, and the second one is just a gap in what you're showing. And gaps can be closed. So that's why I always say that the fastest path to being strategic is being seen as strategic. You start behaving like a leader, and your thinking and your reputation will rise up to meet it. So let me show you how this can work with a quick example on how we can flip this. Picture an IT leader in a high pressure moment. There's been a security breach and all eyes turn to her. And she says, honestly and humbly, I don't know what to do. It was true. The breach just happened and there wasn't enough time to be sure about anything. And she'd heard all that advice about being vulnerable, admitting when you don't have the answers. So she told the truth. But here's what senior leaders felt in that moment. This is her area. And if anybody's going to know what to do, it's her. So instead of reading that as honesty, they read it as a gap, and trust dipped right when she needed it most. And it ended up costing her credibility with this team. So now here's the strategic version of that same exact moment. She says instead, here's what we know so far. Here are the 2 or 3 most likely scenarios. And here's what I'm going to chase down tonight so that I'll have clear answers for you tomorrow morning. She still does not have all the answers. She's not pretending to, but she gave the team a path forward and a sense that they can follow her. That's leadership behavior. Same person, same uncertainty, completely different read. Vulnerability has its place and it's powerful, but there's a way to be honest about what you do not know while still showing people that you're the one steering the ship and you're the strategic advisor. So now for the good news, and there's a lot of it. Behavior changes faster than you think. You don't need a title change or a permission slip to start. You can start in your very next meeting, and here's how it works. So you show one strategic behavior. People will notice because honestly, it's a rare skill and it stands out. Because they noticed, you'll get pulled into the room where strategy actually happens. And once you're in that room, you'll be able to build the skill for real by doing it. And then it compounds like a flywheel. More visibility leads to more opportunity, which leads to more skill, which leads to more visibility. Think of it like a garden. You plant one seed, you water it, you give it a little sun, and before long, you have something growing that you didn't have to force. The whole trick is to plant that first seed sooner than later. And so the earliest that you get into this cycle, the more seasons of growth you'll get. Next, I want to name 4 things that hold smart women back here. See if any of these things sound familiar. The first one is buying books but not reading them on strategy. We love to collect knowledge, and that leadership book sits on the nightstand like we're going to learn it through osmosis. Acquiring information feels like progress, but it's not the same as doing the work. Even if you've read the book, the real work is in implementing what you learned. For that matter, you could chat GPT this as well. all that does is dump more data on you, and I bet you don't need more information in your life. What you need is someone who's curated it for you. You need someone who has the expertise, who's been down this road already, and who knows how to pick and choose what's really going to make the difference. That's a strategic thing to do. So the second thing that I see happening is going it alone, that DIY approach, because this is hit and miss. It's trial and error. You might get there eventually, but it's going to take you so much longer because you can't see your own blind spots. You need a mirror. You need somebody who can tell the truth to you about how you're coming across. And that's the whole point of coaching. That's why I'm such a big fan of coaching. The thing I love about being a coach is that I know that knowing the thing is just a starting point. The real work starts when you implement it and you figure out how it works in your own life and your own workplace. And then you try it out and you iterate and you get it right. Most people never do that part if left to their own devices, but it helps to be in a program with a coach to actually make the time to do that kind of work. And so the third thing is dodging the strategic behaviors because they feel risky. So this is where imposter syndrome can come in for many women. Being strategic is about taking a position out loud and staking out that point of view. And so often we have this little voice that says, what if they think I'm wrong? What if I look stupid? And then we shrink back and we stay safe. And as you go up, playing it safe is the riskiest move that there is. And then there's the biggest one of all, the busyness trap. I'm too busy to be strategic. I hear it constantly. I get it, but busyness can become a hiding place if you're not careful. It's a way to stay small while looking productive. It's very seductive that way. And so I want you to gently ask yourself where that busyness is really coming from. None of these make you a bad leader. They make you a normal leader. Leaders who break through these are simply the ones who name these patterns and decide to nip them in the bud. So I always like to end each episode with 3 shifts that you can make this week. So number 1, be honest about which tells landed earlier on that list. Go back to that symptom list and think about the one that stung the most. That sting is not bad news. It's good news, actually. It's your starting point. So bring it back to the basics and begin right there. And the second shift I want you to make is pick one meeting this week and shift from doer to guide. Don't grab the presenter role. Instead, frame the whole conversation around 3 to 5 priorities tied to the company's goals and lead with the headline, not the laundry list. And watch how differently the room responds to you. Third, I want you to block out 2 hours this week for strategic thinking and guard that time like it's a meeting with your CEO. Take a walk, journal, just think. Strategy does not fit in the cracks of your day, and it needs room to breathe, and you have to give it that room on purpose. So start with one of these. You don't have to do all 3 at once. Plant the seed and let it grow. So here's what I want you to walk away knowing. You're very likely already strategic. The work now is letting people see it. It's a skill you can build starting in your very next meeting. So thank you so much for watching. Which symptom hit closest to home for you? And be honest, are you sitting more on the doer end of the spectrum or the leader end of that line right now? If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments. I read them and I love hearing from where you're starting from. And download the free Strategic Perspective worksheet in the show notes. It breaks down all of this into 5 places strategic perspective actually shows up. And so you can rate yourself and see exactly where you need to start. And if you're ready for deeper work, our next Strategic Leadership Lab cohort starts September 11th and runs for 6 live sessions through October 16th. The link is at sistersmart.com/SLA to get the early bird special. And you can find out all about what the program is like and how it supports you in becoming more strategic and building that strategic perspective that you need. If you're a female leader who wants to break out and make a bigger impact by leading at a higher level in your career, subscribe either on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more women succeed in leadership so our world gets the benefit of what women bring to leadership. And if that's aligned with you, I'd love to have you be part of this community and tune into more episodes on women's leadership that will support more success for us all. See you in the next episode. If you're ready to fully lean into your feminine leadership and get promoted from director to vice president and beyond, hit that subscribe button so you'll get all the episodes to come. And check out the recommended video here to see how women are rising up without playing by the old rules that built these male-dominated industries and systems.